text is more of a problem. You know, text has been extended so much to so many things that I haven't actually written anything about it, but I have begun to sort of say that maybe text should be restricted back to actual artifacts. You know, so that a conversation is not a text. You know, a conversation is a practice, and texts are then not the whole of practice in many cases, but are just part of it. You know, they are resources themselves that we use. You know, and that can themselves be variously used. You know, a film is one thing when you go to the cinema, and it's another thing when you give a lecture on film studies, and it's yet another thing when you do something else with it. You know, so it's a resource that fits into certain practices. And of course, text making itself, you know, is then also a practice that is necessary to make this possible. Because if you don't do that, then you are having a word that is so all-encompassing that its meaning is a little bit reduced to and becomes less useful. I mean, it was a very useful word in the 70s, but as so many of our terms, it was one to claim a field, you know. To claim a field, like literacy and grammar. You know, we use these words to claim a field and to widen it and to say we are also legitimate, not only you. You know, and I think the text linguistics of the 70s was definitely a very important move. You know, because at that time they said we move from the sentence to the text. So, but then text became ubiquitous and very, very wide, and now. When you come, you know, so then it gets, particularly with new media, it gets sometimes, you know, confused with resources, you know, and it begins to blur things a little bit that we might need to speak more clearly about. So in the context of my sort of approach to sketching what a social practice is, you know, then I prefer to talk about practices or communicative practices as one kind of practice, you know, and to see text as being a part of that. Sometimes a huge part, sometimes a small part.